Oh, it's so hard to know what to do on these talks. And so, first of all, I'm Nicholas. Second of all, this is Devo or Devoted TED Talks. Devo TED Talks, Devoted TED Talks, Devoted Talks. I can't even say my own podcast name right. Anyway, it's a play on words. Ta-da! But sometimes it's hard to know what to do or say in these things, and I often find myself broaching a perfectionist attitude or stance that isn't very helpful because it prevents me from getting started because I don't know fully fledged what I'm going to do. However, when I start thinking about it, when I walk in to write a fitness class or I walk in to go teach a class, I take a deep breath, I quiet my mind, and then I engage with the environment in which I am in, or I engage with the energy or the container from which I'm holding or I am participating in. And it comes forth. And so what I wanted to talk about today was just hitting play or just hitting record and just starting. What does it mean to do that? I mean, it means all kinds of things, right? Hop in the car and see where you end up, right? That could be a fun adventure, but some people don't like that. But if you are in a position where you don't like that, but you're also not being productive, maybe you just need to push to get things started, or you just got to get in the car and buckle the seatbelt. You know, one of the ways that I have made deals with myself in the past to get things done or get things started is, look, for instance, you don't have to you don't have to go into the gym. You just have to drive to the gym. And if you don't walk in the door, fine, but you drove to the gym. But usually what happens is after you've gone through all the work to get to the gym, you just go in and do what you're supposed to do. Or you go to the place that has the good food rather than the place that has the bad food. You don't have to go in, but you went there first and then see what happens. You know, just really trying to negotiate with yourself in a way that is reasonable, right? Forcing yourself to do things isn't very healthy, right? We have a natural set point for things, sometimes influenced by disease, sometimes influenced by conditioning. However, that being said, even so, if you are resisting your natural urges, healthy or unhealthy, positive or negative, there's a backup of energy within your body. There's a stagnation and a stifling, and then it starts to recirculate within you. Kind of like my sinus that used to be a cesspool of infection because I had a deformed sinus. It wasn't formed naturally, and it had two openings, and so it would drain out one hole, and then all of the nasty mucus that was supposed to drain out and get blown out of my nose went back into my sinus, and so I had a recycling of dirty mucus. Ew! I've had surgery to correct it. You know what made me mad though? I went through all of this time and testing and energy to try to figure out what was wrong, and I would get sinus infections every 2 months, and they went in ultimately because they're like, well, we can't figure out what it is. We can't see anything on the CT scan. We don't know what it is. And they went in and they're like, oh, okay. And then they chiseled it out and they fixed it. But my gripe is they said, oh, well, now you'll go down to 1 or 2 sinus infections a year because now it's so wide that it's going to probably let bacteria in. And I was like, what? I just had surgery to fix having sinus infections, but I'm still going to get them because of the correction that was utilized. This is why I have issue in many ways with Western medicine, but not in a bad way, right? It's just like, really? After all that and it still wasn't fixed? I mean, another sidebar, get this. So they did something that's called a sinus puncture, and what they do is for somebody who is backed up with that much mucus and infection, they would numb you and then take a giant syringe with a big needle, and they would push it through the sinus cavity wall, the cartilage, and then they would flush you with saline. When I say it was disgusting, but that's not the moral of the story. I went in and they put this weird green stuff on this pad and they stuffed it as deep in my sinus as they could. And it really worked. It was super numbing. And as I was walking out the door after the procedure, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, if you're on a sports team or anything, we need to write you a note because you're going to test positive for cocaine. So it's medical grade cocaine, but it was used as a numbing agent because it's very, very effective. But it was just really funny to me. I was like, what is going on right here? All of that to say that, you know, sometimes there are very few other solutions. There was nowhere, nobody in my life, no way in the world I was going to end up with an Ayurvedic practitioner way back when. My mom was just bought in and sold in, sometimes in a hypochondriac kind of way. I think she just really worried about our safety and well-being and was that conscious of it, that she didn't want anything to go wrong or happen to us. And so in many ways it was noble, but we did go to the doctor a lot. But and I'm sure there probably was a way to fix it through Ayurveda or some kind of herbal remedy that didn't involve, major surgical stuff. But that, again, probably wasn't going to happen. And, the current medical stuff probably only just cleared the way for new things to happen anyway over time. That being said, I, our reliance on the current medical system has more to do with our conditioning and has more to do with not knowing that there are other options than anything else. And so if you knew there was more options than the way you've been doing it, you might explore those. And so I bring that back to just pressing play. If you knew that there was more options for you to succeed in life in a way that was way more fruitful or healthy or sustaining rather than depleting, would you take it? Well, it's usually on the other side of action. And so the first action is to hit play. Go ahead and hit play and see where it leads you. Open a book, pull up Google, ask ChatGPT. Somebody the other day found me through ChatGPT. Go figure. They asked for, what hot yoga class can I go to tomorrow night? And it brought me up. Hey. So, my friends, don't be afraid to start because of unknowing what the ending will look like. I understand resistance to starting completely. But can you make a deal with yourself to do something that is a low barrier to entry, doesn't take as much courage, it doesn't take as much effort, it doesn't take more than we are used to at least get the ball rolling or to press on the gas or to hit play. Hopefully this makes sense, but if I had to sum it all up, if you don't know there are other options, then you're always going to choose or be confined within the choices that you are aware of currently. And some of the inhibition for knowing what is available to you is that you haven't pressed play or taken the step forward to discover them. All right, my friends, this is Nicholas with DIVO-Ted Talks, Devoted Talks. I will see you soon.